What is your favorite project or favorite projects you got to work on?
Well, Kuro was fun for me because it was the first time I'd been given a lead character.
Yep. This is an interview with the voice actor of Kuro in the English dub of Cyborg Kuro-chan. You're probably wondering how I got myself into this situation. But first, we need to go way back. All the way back to 1997. Cyborg Kuro-chan, or Saikuro as it's often abbreviated, stars a hot-headed cat named Kuro, who once lived the kitty dream of protecting his elderly owners and fawning over his crush, a dog named Puli. This black cat's life turned upside down though after being kidnapped by Dr. Mantoro Go, a mad scientist that wanted to make a cyborg cat army to take over the world. Kuro's cyborg enhancements gave him weapons and the ability to speak, but also control from Dr. Go. Kuro broke free of that last unwanted add-on and returned home a new feline. Later, Dr. Go softens up and gives up his plan for world domination, but still retains a turbulent relationship with Kuro. Stories in Saikuro involve wacky hijinks with Kuro and friends, often involving robotic chaos and slapstick violence. Kuro was first introduced to the Japanese public in September of 1997 in comic Bomb Bomb, authored by Naoki Yokouchi, running until December of 2001. Saikuro soon after received a follow-up manga titled Cyborg Kuro-chan Extra Battle by Junta Uchida, with supervision from Yokouchi. Currently, Saikuro has an online sequel manga by Yokouchi, although it seems to get one chapter per year now. The manga received an anime version animated by Studio Bogi and produced by Public and Basic beginning October 2nd, 1999. The anime version was supposed to air for 78 episodes, but was cut short at 66 due to the production studio filing for bankruptcy. Despite the unexpected cut to the episode count, Saikuro has made fans worldwide for its goofy gags, cartoonish violence, and fun characters. Saikuro has had its share of merch in video games too, even recently crossing over with Metabots. But how did this black cat fare with audiences that speak English? What English material is even out there for Saikuro? Before we begin, I must thank the real experts on Cyborg Kuro-chan that helped immensely on this video, Miko Chikamatsu and Davo Domain. I see them both as the gurus of Saikuro, and they assisted me by checking the script and providing additional details. Please follow them both on social media. Also a thank you to Colin LW for his consent letting me use his render of Kuro in the thumbnail and title card. Check out his stuff in the description too. Now, let's get into the discussion of Cyborg Kuro-chan's English material. We're not going to start with the anime or even the manga. The story of Cyborg Kuro-chan in English goes back to a Game Boy Color game, Robopon Sun. Robopon Sun is one of 3 versions of a Game Boy Color RPG developed by Hudson Soft. In Japan, Sun was originally paired with Moon, and 1 year later had a 3rd version named Star. For unknown reasons, America only received Robopon Sun published by Atlas and released on December 4th, 2000. There is data in a debug menu referencing the Nintendo 64 Robopon game that used the transfer pack to connect to the Game Boy games. However, it's not known if Hudson Soft and Atlas intended to release that game in the West or if this is just leftover text from the Japanese version. In recent years, an English prototype of Star version has surfaced too, but it's undetermined how far plans went on releasing it. Given the Game Boy Advance came out in 2001, I wouldn't be surprised if that led to the game's English version being cancelled. In all 3 versions of this game, the player controls a kid with the default canon named Yusuke, or Cody in the English version, who suddenly inherited the family robot dispatching business on Porombo Island. The island is inhabited by over 150 kinds of robots called Robopon, and Cody's mission is to build them, collect them, and trash them, at least according to the North American box. Players can collect and customize their Robopon to battle other Robopon and challenge the Legend 7, all to become the very best like no one ever was. Let's not beat around the bush. Robopon is clearly inspired by Pokémon. By the time Robopon came out in the US, Game Freak's monster collecting franchise had been around for 2 years, and many companies wanted to cash in on the craze. The American market already had Pokémon competitors like Digimon, although that predates Pokémon in America with its Tamagotchi-style game. But Digimon Media released in America 1999 and onward was competing with Pokémon. There were even one-off projects of existing properties to capitalize off Pokémon's success, like that one Animorphs Game Boy game.
Come on, dog, you can do it!
Critics were quick to make the connection between Pokémon and Robopon as well. Robopon's solar debut game had a not-so-sunny reception as being a subpar Pokémon imitator. Robopon did receive a sequel set of games on the Game Boy Advance in 2001 in Japan and 2002 in North America, this time receiving the full set of games in English instead of just one. So that's cool and all, but how is this relevant to Cyborg Kuro-chan? Well, Robopon's Sun marks the official debut of Cyborg Kuro-chan in America. Kuro himself is the guest character in this game, but he didn't go by his original name in the US version. Thanks to what I can only assume are character limitations and a lack of knowledge of this gun-toting black cat, Kuro was rechristened Buddy. Per his in-game description in the Totally Not Pokédex, a popular super cyborg from a comic book. Pretty popular. I think the Redundancy Department of Redundancy wrote this one. At least they got the fact he's from a comic book, since the Japanese version mentions he's from Comic Bomb Bomb. In the Robopon localization prototype, the last line of his entry is pretty wild, an apt description of Kuro and one that feels like it should have been kept for the final release. So that's how America first learned about Saikuro, a cameo in an obscure Pokemon ripoff on the Game Boy Color and then left out of the sequels. But was this really Kuro's stateside debut? We're really getting into the weeds here, but Kuro's technical debut to Americans was not a TV show, comic book, or video game. It was a skateboard. In 1998, Birdhouse Skateboards created this skateboard deck called Mad Cat with skateboarder Bucky Lasek. The deck design in question features a cat that bears a striking resemblance to Kuro. This design is even used on a Tech Deck fingerboard released in 1999. It's so nostalgic looking at Tech Decks, so many kids in school had these. What's more interesting is that Kuro is found on more than one skateboard deck design. This is another board with Lasek's name on it, clearly using a recolor of Kuro. Now you might be wondering, is Kuro in any of the Tony Hawk's Pro Skater games? Yes, starting in Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1. As expected, Kuro can be spotted under Bucky Lasek's deck designs. In fact, it's his last deck to unlock. This game came out on September 29th, 1999 on PlayStation and then 2000 on the Nintendo 64 and Dreamcast, all of which came out before Robopon. So yes, if we want to get super technical, Cyborg Kuro-chan's debut video game in America was Tony Hawk's Pro Skater in 1999. What a world we live in. And that's sadly it. In North America, this is as far as Cyborg Kuro-chan went, but overseas, it was a different story. Back in the early 2000s, an English dub of the Cyborg Kuro-chan anime aired on Animax Asia, a Southeast Asian TV channel that airs animated programs, most of which is anime. Anime credits on Animax only ever include the Japanese staff, never any of the English cast and crew, so just like every other dub, this one was a mystery. Most Animax dubs never got a home video release. They'd air a few times in syndication, then disappear into the lost media abyss. Cyborg Kuro-chan, though, was one of the lucky few to not face that fate. Well, at least partially. Enter Speedy Video, a now-defunct company based out of Malaysia. Hardcore dub fanatics may shiver or giggle a bit at that name, as Speedy Video has produced some infamous bootleg English dubs, their best known probably being Dragon Ball Z.
So you two you can't Kakarot?
I'm Son Goku!
Then you better die!
But more than anything, Speedy was a home media distributor. This said, Speedy released VCD sets of Cyborg Kuro-chan in 2002, featuring the English dub that aired on Animax Asia. Did these VCD sets include English dub credits? No, of course not. But it's likely these releases are unrelated to the dub's production because of character names and episode titles on the cases being different from the actual dub and online listings having questionable English grammar. The English dub of Cyborg Kuro-chan featured on the Speedy VCDs has a lot of hallmarks of 2000 Southeast Asian English dubs found on Animax. The dub employs a lot of zany voices and accents across its colorful cast, a common trait in dubs with small talent pools. For example, the actor behind Kuro's sword-wielding friend Mi, aka Mi-kun in this dub, has a southern accent in his performance. The voice recordings sound like they were done in a cheap studio, although that could partially be blamed on the compressed VCD quality. Either way, that tracks with Southeast Asian dubs of the era. What's odd though is the scripts. Southeast Asian dub scripts are usually faithful to their Japanese counterparts, although their translations are of a lower quality given their lack of time, budget, and staff. Cyborg Kuro-chan's episode scripts, though, make the show feel more like a gag dub, such as adding new jokes and breaking the fourth wall more than the series already does. Some of the jokes and plot beats from the original are kept, but it seems strange on the face of it that the scripts have other changes sprinkled in. There were a lot of question marks about this dub. Cyborg Kuro-chan isn't nearly as well known as series like Doraemon, so there wasn't as much attention brought to this mysterious English audio track. What studio dubbed the series? In what country is the studio located? Why is the script so different from the original version? So many questions, nowhere to start. Here's where the search effort began for me, Davo, and Miko back in 2021. The first place to consider would be Malaysia, where Speedy Video was based out of, but that can be ruled out immediately. Speedy Video did distribute other countries' English dubs. I can attest to this as I own one of their VCDs and it has episodes of the Ocean Studios Dragon Ball Z dub on it. This Saikuro dub doesn't sound outstanding, but doesn't sound as crappy as Speedy's outings with Dragon Ball and Doraemon. It's apparent the studio that recorded this dub had more than $5 in some pocket lint to spend on a studio and native English speakers to make the script and record the dialogue. Malaysia, out. One of us spotted a source online saying the dub was made in Singapore. I knew just the guy to ask, Christian Lee, a man that had worked with Voiceovers Unlimited, the English dubbing studio in Singapore. Lee stated he never worked on the show, and since he was working for Voiceovers Unlimited when this dub came out, it's unlikely the dub was recorded there. Singapore, out. What about Hong Kong? That's one of the most common places to record dubs for Animax Asia. I exhausted all my options for contacts, from people that were likely to have worked on the dub like Dave Bridges to people that were longer shots but may know something like Michael Pizzuto. Every actor gave me the same answer. They didn't recognize the name or images of Cyborg Kuro-chan. I wasn't ready to rule out Hong Kong yet, but we hit a brick wall in our search. Heaven help us if this dub was made in the Philippines. I neither had contacts nor immediate knowledge of voice actors or staff in that area, but at this point in our search, we needed to give up for the time being. Fast forward 1 year. In late 2022, I was researching Urusei Yatsura for a then upcoming video. In my search for answers regarding the Hong Kong Urusei Yatsura dub called Lamu the Invader Girl and to get another guest for my podcast English Voiceover in Asia, I found a former Hong Kong voice actor Darren Pleven on social media. He agreed to do an interview over a video call. Pleven went into detail about his career and what he's up to now, and he was fun to talk to. The call ended and we kept up on occasion over instant message. After the interview, Miko pinged me to ask Pleven if he knew anything about Cyborg Kuro-chan. Given our luck back in 2021, I was not holding my breath Pleven would know anything. Still, I gave it a shot. What he sent back blew me away. A long-standing mystery suddenly had a breakthrough. My heart raced as I just unexpectedly found out that 1. Darren Pleven has a brother named Sean, and 2. Sean played the lead in Cyborg Kuro-chan. Kuro was in the back of my mind, but thanks to Miko, I got the push to ask if this voice actor knew anything about this obscure property. All of this because I was researching Urusei Yatsura and working on a podcast. As fast as my fingers could type, I tried to get in touch with this long unknown Black Cat Cyborg voice actor. Thankfully, I got in touch with him soon after, and within the week we got an interview set up. So go ahead and introduce yourself.
So my name is Sean Pleven. Darren's brother that you interviewed, and for 7-ish years I did voiceovers in Hong Kong.
Pleven's memory is sharp. He thoroughly remembered working on the Saikuro dub. The dub was recorded by Omni Productions in Hong Kong. Pleven can't remember the year they started recording, but he believes it was 2001. He gave me a list of cast members and recounted memories of working on the dub. But that's not all. Shortly after I unearthed this bevy of information and published it online, the stars aligned and the director and scriptwriter of this dub of Cyborg Kuro-chan reached out over Twitter. He just happened to be thinking of Sean the morning after I posted all this info. The enigmatic person to DM me was Colin Shevloff, who Sean also confirmed voiced Dr. Go in the Saikuro dub. I interviewed him soon after this DM exchange. With all of that setup out of the way, let's check out the cast list. As mentioned, the lead actor of this Hong Kong dub is Sean Pleven, brother of Darren Pleven. Pleven based his voice for Kuro off a bat character that he played in The Legend of Snow White, refining it to be a bit scratchier.
It's amazing what you can do with just some rusty television parts. Just wait until you see what this puppy can do, Paul!
Starting in episode 12, he refined the voice to be easier to play.
You know, I hate to break this to you, but those things are gonna ruin your image, and I know how important your image is to you.
Despite this adjustment, he noted the most difficult part of playing Kuro was, quote, screaming all the time, unquote. Longtime Hong Kong dubber and then owner of Omni Productions Rick Thomas plays Grandpa. Hong Kong dub veteran Andrea Kwan voices Grandma, Nana, and Kotaro. Kwan worked in Hong Kong for many years, eventually moving to Canada in the early 2010s and retiring from voice acting. Unfortunately, I've been unable to get in contact with her, but her adaptable voice shines in Saikuro, being able to do an old lady, young girl, and little boy voice. As of recording, there is no footage of her voicing Nana.
Grandma, it's such a nice day.
Isn't it lovely?
Let's go and pick shells on the beach.
Just help yourself, Me-kun. I chose every one of these games. They're all pretty good.
Speaking of adaptable voices, Michael Quinn is the actor behind the narrator and Me-kun. To differentiate between the two roles, Quinn used a southern accent when playing Me-kun.
Now I've asked you real nicely, Kuro, and I think you should reconsider my offer on the grounds that I'm about to rip your nose off. You got me, boy?
Silly accents may be commonplace in dubs with small talent pools, but sometimes this goes deeper than face value. This can be seen with Scott Evans voicing Romeo and Matatabi. While no footage exists of Matatabi in this dub, Pleven confirmed the eye patch wearing feline has an Australian accent. This fits not only because of him sporting a boomerang, but because Evans himself is Australian. His natural speaking voice doesn't have an Australian accent, but it's still a fun reference. Here's a clip of him as Romeo.
Don't leave me! Hurry up, pull me out! Master is sniffing my butt and it feels icky!
A lead actor in many projects at Omni, Henry Coombs provides his voice to the nerdy teacher Ichiro Suzuki.
My regular day job is a primary school teacher, and I've got a PE lesson right now!
And lastly, as previously noted, Colin Shevlov is the voice of antagonist Dr. Go and serves as the Cyborg Kuro-chan English dub director and scriptwriter. Originally, Sean Pleven reported Ina Chow as the director, but that was before Shevlov got in touch with me. Chow directed many other projects at Omni, usually either her or Andrea Kwan. When reminiscing on this dub, Shevlov recalled having to do a silly face to do his voice for Dr. Go, but can't remember exactly how he did it. His voice for the Mad Doctor was at least somewhat inspired by Dr. Evil from the Austin Powers movie franchise.
Say hello to the next generation of world-conquering bad kitty-smashing robots. By me.
Now about the script. Shevlov received English Cyborg Kuro-chan scripts in a parking lot based on what he assumes is a Chinese translation from a woman who worked for a Hong Kong channel, and they were practically unusable. The translations were low quality, so the script's basic plot was based on context of the visuals. However, Shevlov, as he puts it, reshaped the character dialogue and tailor-made it with the actor's pace and speech in mind as well, making it a memorable project for him. Eventually, Shevlov believes the scripts just stopped coming altogether. He wrote most of the scripts, but mentioned Mike Quinn might have written some too. This dub's production story resembles the alleged tale behind Samurai Pizza Cats by Saban Entertainment, a 1993 English dub of Kyato Ninden Teiyande by Tatsunoko Productions. Supposedly, the team behind that dub ran into the same problem. The scripts, if they received them, were poorly translated, which resulted in the show becoming a gag dub. The Saikuro cast recorded together in a room for this dub, as with most productions by Omni. Actors and dubs of the era also needed to time themselves with the animation on screen, as there were no engineers making thorough adjustments behind the scenes. This said, actors occasionally missed the mark, and the mistakes remained unnoticed until it was on TV. These can also be seen in the Cyborg Kuro-chan dub. While only 10 episodes of the Saikuro dub are fully available online, an old Animax schedule from March of 2006 lists that 65 of 65 episodes were aired, as episode 66 has never been dubbed for international markets. This matches Shevlov's recollection of this dub lasting weeks in production. Dubs by Omni Productions were worked on quickly, the only series to last 3 to 4 weeks in production being series with high episode counts like Inuyasha and Yu Yu Hakusho. Unfortunately, neither Pleven nor Shevlov have any episode recordings, and it's doubtful anyone else on the cast does either. The VCD sets known to exist cover 14 episodes, so that means there are 4 episodes that can be preserved. Someone recently on the Saikuro fan server showed off they have the VCD sets with the remaining 4 episodes, but are trying to find a way to rip them, so stay tuned for that. The rest is up to the hope that someone out there in the world recorded episodes off Animax Asia airings. Pleven and Shevlov don't have any episode recordings, but Pleven does have a little Kuro doll from his time in Hong Kong, as well as a few other toys of the Cyborg Kitty. I haven't been able to talk to anybody else that worked on Saikuro, but if Pleven and Shevlov are anything to judge off, the team had loads of fun working on this property. While the info we have today is a lot more than what we had a couple years ago, there are still discoveries to be made. 51 episodes are completely unavailable, and many other character voices are unconfirmed. So until the day comes where all this dub's material is found, this weapon-wielding cat story has pieces still missing. Here's to hoping one day the remaining mysteries for this dub are solved. That wraps up the story about Cyborg Kuro-chan in English. It's not extensive and the series itself hasn't had much new material save for that recent Metabots collab and the ongoing online manga. But the Saikuro fanbase is passionate and seeks to preserve and restore as much of the series material as possible. If you would like to aid in the search for not only the English dub but also dozens of other international dubs of Cyborg Kuro-chan, join the Cyborg Kuro-chan Search Team Discord server. The link is on screen and in the description. You can also find the link to the Saikuro Fan Club Discord server there. Raise awareness of the search to your friends and communities. If you recall recording Animax Asia back in the time this was on, maybe you look at your old recordings, who knows? If you would like to see Cyborg Kuro-chan for yourself, regrettably there's no legal way to do so in English, as the only time the dub was ever released was on Speedy Video's VCDs. Check links in the description for the archive.org uploads of the English dubbed episodes. If you're interested to see it in Japanese with English subtitles, there are incomplete English fan subs of the series out there, one by Jet Force and another by Jammy. As for the manga, there's an English scanlation out there based on the French version. So far, only 4 chapters are translated. As of this recording, there is no official English translation. Even Cyborg Kuro-chan's author would love to see more people read the series, but he's not in charge of publication. Maybe one day Cyborg Kuro-chan's full English dub will be discovered, and maybe the full anime will be subbed and the manga will be translated. But for now, the search continues for more dub episodes. Stay tuned, the next episode announcement is coming up. Thank you to everyone that requested Cyborg Kuro-chan. I'll be honest, I had never heard of the series before working with Miko and Davo, and Davo was the first person to even request it. Speaking of them, thanks again to both of them for their immense help fact-checking the script and helping in search for answers about the English dub. Also thank you to Colin LW for letting me use his awesome render of Kuro. Let me know in the comments, what do you think of Cyborg Kuro-chan? Do you like what is available of the English dub? What else would you like to see me cover? I'm always listening to your suggestions, popular or obscure. Only 3 episodes left this year, and I've started working on a big episode for next year already. It likely won't be out until June or July of 2024, so stay tuned. Thank you to everyone that submitted fan art for this episode. This is the most I've received for a specific series. If you'd like to have your fan art possibly shown in a video, I do accept submissions. Tag me in a post on Twitter, Blue Sky, Instagram, or Threads with your submission. I'm at yui-haruhara on most platforms, except Instagram and Threads where I needed to use an underscore. Shout out to all of my supporters on Patreon and Twitch. Supporters on either platform got to see this video early, so if you'd like to support what I do, gain access to my exclusive Discord server, and have your name on screen here, please consider supporting. Until next time, take care. Have you ever had a TV show you vaguely recall seeing as a kid, but then you look it up in adulthood and realize it wasn't a fever dream after all? A show that stays tucked away in your memory until something reminds you of catching it on TV? Well, next time, we are going to cover one such show.
Right to